right, I'm live. Welcome everyone tuning in to the Simply Lucid group coaching call. Thank you for your flexibility and patience. I know we originally workshopped this for Tuesday and then rescheduled it to Thursday. So yeah, I know. Hello. I know we're still figuring out a consistent time, but something I do want to bring up and mention again is that these are live recordings that will be available for you and myself and other people to revisit whenever we want. So whether we miss a connection and want to get back to it, or a year passes and we are like, oh yeah, I need to revisit boundaries. Oh yeah, I need to revisit focus. That content is always going to be there, as well as the course content that you're currently working through. So again, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Just settling into the space at this point, I invite you to have your journal or like a paper and pen handy in case you're like inspired by anything and want to write something down. Also, if you have like a tea or potion that you're working with, just like being chill, being comfortable. Hello, everyone. Being chill and comfortable during this space and time, and just using it for your own nourishment. This is really a space and time for me to go deeper into different questions. You have stuff that's coming up during the coursework or patterns that keep coming up for yourself. So I'm excited, as well as the journal or the potion. You're invited to have some like sage or Palo Santo or some incense burning, maybe like lighting a candle, which is something that we'll get into later, being part of ritualizing different aspects of your life or your whole life. So in practicing that, we can throw out routine for now, but in service of ritual, we can make this space and time ritualistic, not in a way that is stressing us out, but in a way that is nourishing us, with the journal, with the nourishing potion, with lighting a candle, with whatever like magical, witchy thing that would bring you more into the space on all sensory levels, beyond listening, beyond seeing, but maybe you're smelling your favorite scent as you're working through this work. Maybe you have like a nice tune playing in the background, just like some background vibes going. So I invite you to experiment with creating that sacred space for yourself. Not overwhelming yourself with like trying to do that for every aspect of your life, but breaking it up into itty bitty pieces as we're focusing on building ritual, building routine, and using this as a space and time to not only commit to ourselves, but do ritualistic things that when we're done with it, we're like, heck yeah, I'm so glad that I did that. So I'm here ready to go. Have my potion, I have my incense burning, I have some like tunes going in the background. I hope it's not overpowering what I'm saying. If you have any questions or comments throughout today's deep dive, you can, as you've already done, leave a comment in the comments section and we can go through it. But I have a pretty decent understanding of where you guys have been, where you're like wanting to go, given your stressor points at this point in time. So yeah, before we go too much more into intellectualizing or talking, I just want to invite a moment of presence and stillness. Do like a mini meditation drop in. If you're into it, go for it. If you're like driving or something, by no means like do something that is not conducive to your life right now or that you're not comfortable with. This is all for your benefit. But if you are in a place where you want to tune into this, you're invited to briefly, for the moment, welcoming you to the space, feeling invited to close your eyes even, and just letting not only the whole day, but the whole week up until this point, not necessarily letting it go, but just pausing it, putting a pin in it as you come more and more into the present moment. Taking some time to be aware of your breath. Feeling like a winner anytime we tune into our breath. That in and of itself is a meditation. Every inhale, every exhale. On your inhales and exhales, trying to slow down time, slowing down all the particles and all of the energy in your space. If there's an invitation to think or to rush about, kindly keeping it on the outside of this present moment and dropping into stillness and slowness. Centering into yourself. Maybe centering into your why you've shown up to this space, what you hope to achieve, and your motivation for moving forward. Seeing yourself as highly creative, highly competent, able to solve any issues or problems that might arise. Briefly tuning into your body, relaxing your shoulders and jaw, letting go of any tension coming up in your body. And just being kind and gentle with yourself. Scanning from your head to your toes. And then from your toes back up to your head. Using your breath to breathe out any tension you might be holding. Just relaxing more and more into the present moment. Feeling free to stay here for as long as you'd like, really. But when you're ready, you're invited to bring your awareness and your breath back to the space and present moment. Letting your eyes flicker open, bringing movement back to your toes and hands. And yeah, just tuning back into the physical space that you are in and seeing how you feel, maybe anything that shifted just in that brief little meditation that we did. I feel like stuff is in higher definition, almost like more clarity in my visual aspect of seeing things, just in doing that for 5 minutes. And that's something I want to talk about. I feel like a big pillar of this work in Simply Lucid, or the work that has helped transform my life, specifically with managing stress and anxiety and just all of the things to manage in life, 2 of those huge pillars have been meditation and journaling. And I bring that up to people a lot, as far as just not that it would work for them, but that it would work for me, and being open and curious about other people's experience with that for themselves. And something that I get feedback on is that people feel that they don't have like the space and time for journaling as well, but talking about meditation right now. And I feel like we can be limited by this idea of meditation being like a certain type of way. You have to be like a Tibetan Buddhist monk. You have to be someone who has meditated forever to like be doing it. You have to have like a master's degree in the right way to meditate to be doing it. Like all of these things from the mind telling us stuff about meditation that ultimately limits our experience of it. So I invite people to think about meditation not exclusively in any one type of way. It's not just sitting on a mat for an hour and not thinking. It's however you want it to be. But the intention is that it brings you to a point of greater relaxation, greater awareness, greater inspiration, connection afterwards. So it doesn't have to take an hour. Like I said, it could be super, super brief, as brief as an intentional, mindful inhale and exhale. And it doesn't have to look any certain type of way, as in sitting on a mat. It can look like walking around, it can look like as you're dancing. So I invite you to stay open and curious about not all the ways in which you need to meditate, but all of the ways that you are already meditating, all of the ways that you find yourself being from a point of, more stress or um, overstimulation. And then you do this certain thing. You could call it meditation. You can call it whatever. We can create more empowering words for ourselves, or words that resonate with us more. It doesn't have to be meditation for you, but back to ritual, a ritualistic practice that on the other side of it, no matter how brief it is, right? Like inhale, exhale, a ritualistic practice that gets you to where you want to be. Where I'm trying to go is, more awareness, more relaxation, just to simplify it, but that can look different for different types of people. Okay, yes, you can do it in traffic if need be. Find what works for you. Exactly. And speaking of doing it in traffic, I feel like that is such, like, that's part of the magic. Like, to take something that is stereotypically super stressful and then find the zen, find the stillness, the breath, the inspiration, the magic to do it there. It's like bonus points. You know what I mean? It's like it's easier to like meditate and be at peace when everything around you is also like super chill. But say you are in traffic, say you're in a charged moment with someone, say you're like doing the dishes and don't like doing the dishes, like to find the meditation or the medicine in that, not like it has to work for you, but seeing it as like an experiment. Like, how can I try to relate to this differently and just see what happens? And that's just another like pillar or a value that I have, like seeing stuff as an experiment or play. Not to say that your life isn't serious, or like your stressors or things that happen aren't serious, but coming to it from a place of light heartedness. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm in traffic. I can take a metaphorical route of being like super stressed out and letting my mind go crazy, which if that happens, congratulations, you're human. Like, don't feel too bad about it. Or you can take a path that is like, oh, I'm in traffic. What a perfect opportunity to meditate. Am I going to close my eyes and trance out? Probably not. But can I remember, oh yeah, intentional breath. Oh yeah, how's my posture? Oh yeah, let me scan my body from like head to toe. Oh, I felt a thing here. Curious about that. Come back to it later. Like, you can then reframe that formerly stressful situation as a perfect opportunity to do what you had been meaning to do, if that makes sense, which I think is super cool. And yeah, like I said, I'm super interested in hearing more about people's experience with meditations that they're already doing, not creating another thing for themselves to do on top of an already like loaded plate, but to see, oh yeah, I have all of these opportunities to meditate, or I am already meditating in all of these ways, but I wasn't thinking about it like that. So yeah, that was a tangent on meditation, but I just wanted to invite a brief little relaxation drop in before moving on in our container tonight. But something else I wanted to say was just like setting the intention for the space. Like I said, this is a place where you can come with any like questions, comments, concerns, any like wins, cool stuff that you're doing, and we can just hype up the energy of our growth, our collective alchemical transformation. And it's really to inspire, inform, educate, and connect all of the awesome things that we as individuals are all doing, and to continue to grow in that, but also from a collective standpoint, really inspire and empower each other no matter where we're at on the journey. I believe that we all have something to share and something to give with each other. And I recommend utilizing the Simply Lucid Lounge Facebook group as a container to explore that. So, say that something you're working on is confidence. Say you want to start practicing with live streams, or you want to start painting more, whatever that might be, using the container of our Facebook group, our private Facebook group, as a place to really push. The invitation is use that space to push your creative limits and really see what can happen. My intention is to not only support you in pushing that creative limit, but maybe finding something that you didn't even know was there before, or taking that pushed creative limit and then taking it even farther, and just really challenging what we think we can and can't do, if that makes sense. So not only is it from the creative aspect, but then it's like, how can I take this inner creativity, this, if the group is like this sacred womb pod type of thing, more private, how can you then birth that outside of the womb, outside of that group, into the larger world in a way that feels in alignment with your values, in alignment with your integrity, and ideally get you paid and more like prosperity and abundance from doing the inner work to push that creative edge, to push that magical, witchy edge, to push the edge of your own uniqueness. Like I said, utilizing the group space to experiment and play with that. And then hopefully feeling empowered enough to break out of that shell into the larger world beyond, taking the seeds that you've planted and the fruit that you've grown from the group, and then sharing that out with the world. That is definitely a big intention of mine, especially with the times that we're living in right now. I feel like, again, with how we look at things and how we frame things, there's definitely a way of looking at things right now that's super scary and super disempowering. At the same time, I feel like, and I know a lot of people that have this framework of like, this is a renaissance. This is truly an unprecedented time. People are doing all types of stuff that they've never done before, that they've never thought of before. And calling it a renaissance really resonates with me. Not to discount any pain or suffering or like actual death that is going on, but understanding that these shifts are, for better or worse, prompting change, encouraging change, and we can be proactive and empowered and create intentional spaces to fortify ourselves to keep up with the changing things and be at the forefront and like proactive, not reactive to the things that are happening, and also have support and inspiration when we're not feeling so optimistic. So that would be another intention I have as well, to just really hold space and help fortify people, not only for like the ups that are coming with the times that we live in the future, but the realistic downs that are also a part of this work. In module 2, we'll get into the shadow work. You know what I mean? So that space, the shadow and the darker things definitely have a space here. It's not like a love and light only type of thing, but we see, I see, and I'm inviting reflections and like wondering what you see, but I'm saying I see the darkness and the shadow in service to the light, or the pain and suffering in service to creation on a new level. And that is the whole perspective of alchemy, or the alchemist turning lead into gold, if that makes sense. So along the lines with the housekeeping, like I said, we have our private Simply Lucid Lounge Facebook group that you've all have tuned into at some point or another. And that is a space, like I said, to push your creative limits and ideally take that outside of the group then in your own time and just doing whatever you feel comfortable with, but really inviting yourself to push that edge. We also have the actual course on Teachable that you've all logged into at this point. We have an introductory the introductory module where it's like, hey, welcome. We have different checklists for your journey, kind of like this is the general gist of what we'll be going through over the next few weeks. And it's honestly a lot of stuff. I'm super open to your feedback, and I'm like excited to hear your feedback on what really resonates with you and then what stuff just isn't resonating with you so much, because this is for you on your own unique individual journey. But in the intro, I don't know, I'm not sure how far you all have gotten, but you'll see in the introductory module, we have bits on commitment. We have bits on your why for being in the course. We have the alchemical journaling bit, as well as some other organizational tools. So, like I said, if something is not resonating with you, I invite you to push that edge. But at the end of the day, not forcing it, especially if something is really resonating with you. It's like, go towards that. I feel like my intention of the course is to not have it be linear, but once the module opens, feeling free to work through those lessons in any order that you would want to, if that makes sense. And then staying tuned into yourself with like, what's the most interesting thing to me right now? And I feel like that is my educational philosophy, or just my philosophy on communicating information, one that I didn't get and then you might not have gotten in school growing up. Like in school growing up, or even in college, it was like, okay, here's what we're going to do, and we're going like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 6, step, and for some things, like, cooking something or baking something, yeah, probably building a house, yeah, like follow those linear instructions. But with the information I'm presenting, I don't really see a need for that. So again, this is an experiment. This is staying open and curious to what works. And like I said, I'm super open to your feedback on all times as far as how this course, how this journey goes, it being your journey. I'm on number 5. Nice. Yes, I'm excited for y'all to be working through it. Yeah, like I said, we have the commitment, your why, the journaling, organizational tools in the introductory module. And then in module 1, we start getting into what I'm calling practical magic, or the more esoteric, witchy things. And I don't know where you all are at on your, like, I don't want to call it a spiritual journey, because like there's so much charge and connotations with these words, but like inner work, we'll call it inner work. Like, I don't know where you're at on your inner work. What things in module 1 are you super familiar with? What have you never even heard of before? What might you have heard of, but it's been maybe demonized in certain circles that you have lived in, you know what I mean? So again, that's something that I'm open and curious to hearing about. But in module 1, you'll basically see a very broad, not super, super, super deep, but a broad range of topics that are inner work, connecting you as an individual to the outer cosmos. It's like how to connect with the moon, how to connect with your ancestors. In most, if not all, of the lessons in the modules, I have like a video of me talking about that topic at hand. I have like a worksheet with maybe an exercise or reflection questions, and then I'll have some meditations and like subliminals or affirmations that you can listen to. The meditation being, again, the exercise that you maybe want to experience and then journal about. And then the affirmations are there to really reprogram your subconscious mind. And again, in that, it's in service of reprogramming your subconscious. Like, that's nothing to take lightly. And I'm super grateful that you all trust me in inviting this work into your outer and inner space, But like I said, if something is coming up and it's not resonating, don't force it. I always have an invitation to, if you are resonating with something like an affirmation, make up your own. You know what I mean? Like my examples or what I offer is merely an example or an offering. And another level is to truly take it and make it your own, making up your own exercises, like making up your own rituals, making up your own affirmations. But what I'm providing, like I said, is more of a template or an example or a place to start, because I hear people say, well, I'm interested in this magical path or this alchemical path, this transformation, but I don't know where to start. So then I'm like, okay, step 0, journaling and meditation, step 1, and again, it's like, do the steps in any order that you want, the steps being merely a suggestion from a mental place, because our minds can be so programmed with like, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm on number 5. Past, present, future self was a great exercise. I will be revisiting that one. I'm just going to take a quick drink break. And yeah, thank you for sharing about the quantum self, or like past, present, future self. Again, I like, we dip our toe in the work, but this work can be done almost infinitely, right? If we are always in the present moment, theoretically, we're always in the present moment, we can go back and visit past versions of ourselves from the point we were born, and maybe even before that. Like, people get freaky out here with it, you know what I mean? But you can revisit a place that was pleasant. Say you have a past memory that's pleasant, of course. You go back and you revisit that, and you create like a bond throughout space and time between those two parts of yourself. And that past version of yourself gets to meet the future version of yourself. The future version of yourself, meaning the present self, gets to see that past version of yourself. And maybe you once related to that past self with like such frustration or contempt or whatever it was, but that present version of yourself can go back to the past and bring wisdom, healing, insight. Maybe you're honestly still frustrated. You can lean into that. You can have a whole conversation with that past self, ideally reaching a point of, if not forgiveness, like acceptance of what has happened. And not only with your past self, but again, like, there's levels and layers to all of this, to past versions of other people, like past time periods. Like, consider it like literally a time machine, and through these processes and exercises, you can literally go wherever you want in the past with your awareness, not necessarily your body, but with your awareness, and do whatever you want there. Ideally or hopefully doing something that is accepting or forgiving or loving, but feeling empowered or powerful enough to be like, whoa, I can really, with my consciousness, go into the past at any point and do whatever I want. Like, very, very cool, very empowering, potentially overwhelming. But I'm providing like a place to start, like I said, in the quantum self lesson, being like, okay, pick one point, like just do that work. And then the same for the future, right? So all of that stuff I said, applying to the future and visiting any version, any fractal future version of ourselves, future versions of the universe. Like, there's, the invitation is to see absolutely no limit in it, and to really feel like you can go wherever you want or do whatever you want, ideally creating synergy and harmony between all of the versions of yourself, again with that alchemic philosophy. So bringing from the past what is like dark or heavy or sticky or yucky or embarrassing, alchemizing it, and like literally using it as fuel to get to wherever you're trying to go in the future. Not to say that you can't move forward without doing that work. I just see it as like quantum leaping instead of like walking. It will just get you more rapid results. And it's a pretty deep exercise or meditation. So when you are doing this particular exercise or doing this work, I do recommend like creating some strong physical boundaries around yourself, maybe some emotional boundaries, like maybe not doing this right before you go to work or right before a meeting or something like that. Like really clearing your schedule, clearing some space and time, maybe having no expectations, and then dropping in to the work, leaving some time to come back, maybe journaling about it to like integrate it into the mind and body, like what just happened. And again, just staying open and curious. I've done number 2 for inner child, hit play, remind the situation. Yep, exactly. So this exercise has different, like people in the like magical esoteric community can do it. They might call it like quantum healing. People in a more traditional counseling or psychology profession do it. They might call it something else, but I personally prefer to see it beyond just the mind, but like the whole self. Like body's not there, right? But we can come back and journal about it. We can like touch ourselves in our mind's eye. We can like meet a past or future version of ourselves, touch them, hug them, really trying to get as many senses as we can beyond just the mind in doing this work, and knowing we can go so many places, like I said, and understanding that it's not a one and done type of thing. You can have it be one and done, but like with exercising or eating foods that make us feel good, this is something that can be done as part of our overall self-love, self-care practice to then, like I said, be in service of our future selves, the reality that we're wanting to manifest, the dreams that we're working towards. And it doesn't have to be for anyone else besides you, if you know what I'm saying. Like it's not like, oh, I need to clear this past thing, or I need to like become this future version of myself, because then I'll finally get the acceptance from some family member, or like I'll finally like something having to do with anyone else. Like freeing yourself from that, from needing that validation in any sense. Not to say that it wouldn't feel good to like our programming, but like really trying to get as into our own center, as our present self as we can, to then visit these past and future points, and then having any gems or jewels that we get be honestly for us, and like letting that incubate, letting that heal, like letting that bit of our soul that we get back just really rest and connect with the rest of us. Not to say you can't like share your journey and experience later, but just the invitation is to like keep it very, very, very sacred as you're doing this work. And then as time goes on, as you fortify yourself, then opening up to it again as an merely an invitation, merely an experiment, and your own working. But yeah, like I said, since this work can be very deep, very vulnerable, bringing up past self stuff, bringing up inner child stuff, relational stuff, the invitation being to create some pretty solid boundaries, physical boundaries, maybe like shutting your door, locking your door, emotional boundaries, maybe like not having a meeting or any obligation to like be present or outside of yourself for anyone else. And just something else I recommend for spiritual hygiene that I do have in lesson 3 of module 1 then. So it's like at the very beginning of module 1, but it's something that one of my teachers taught me. And an analogy I'll use is, if you're going on a roller coaster, you know how you sit there, but you put on your seatbelt, or like you get into a car to go somewhere and you like put on your seatbelt. It's essentially that. What I have in module 1 lesson 3 are like a grounding meditation, like connecting, like I said, that core of yourself from that point, not to the past or future, but that core point of yourself, and connecting it to the earth beneath you, like literally tethering yourself to the earth, which granted you are already tethered in that way. You're like a being alive on planet earth right now, but bringing intention and awareness and breath to that connection and dropping into that, staying there for as long as you want. That could be the whole exercise if you're in that space. And then also flipping it So you're going from the center of yourself down, and then you're going from the center of yourself up, going like as far up as you can comprehend up is. And then there's you. Then there's you being in like connected down and then connected up, and then you're able to then through your seatbelt of connection up and down travel back and forth, left, right, any way you want. And then also from that, like putting your seatbelt on, creating a bubble or creating an energy of protection around yourself. And I introduce these things not to scare you or create any fear, but just to say like to empower you to dare to go farther, to explore more things, to have ultimately less fear or disencouragement from the maybe some super dark places that you're trying to like go to, you know what I mean? Places that you might not dare to go. But if you say like, hey, I know I'm connected to the earth, I know I'm connected to my higher self, a higher power above me, I know I'm protected, I can pop it up in an instant. Now where do I want to go, you know? And I feel like that is empowering, to go to some darker places, like I said, the shadow, and then using that to then alchemize it into a future. So I am merely inviting and sharing things that have personally helped me on my practice, to where when these exercises were first introduced to me, like the grounding, above, below, and then protection meditation, it took me a while to really get on board with that. Like meditation was new to me. Energy was new to me. I was a complete beginner when I got exposed to all of this, but over time it started to flow more, like building a muscle or anything else that you work on, you know? And at this point, I can very quickly activate all of those things from the third lesson and then go into something like the fifth lesson. So I hope that makes sense to all of you, but I put the, okay, what to do before you even start. All right, your seatbelt's on. All right, here's where we're going, you know? And it's like, okay, you got a full tank of gas. We can go farther. Not to say we can't go with less gas, but we can go farther with more gas. So yeah, thank you for sharing your bits. Again, you are all welcome to share whatever you feel comfortable with as far as your progress throughout the course so far. It doesn't have to be a question. It can just be like, this is where I'm at, or like, I thought this was interesting, or I didn't know that. Utilizing the comment section however you would want to. But yeah, just going over module 1, like I said, it's like a brief introduction to intuitive forms or like extrasensory experiences. We have the quantum self, like I said, the meditations that go with that. We have the cosmic energy calendar, or like energies for different days of the week. Like I said, moon magic, ancestral healing, and then some bonus things. Again, stuff that I personally find very interesting, but it might not be everyone's bag. Stuff like tarot, lucid dreaming, natural law, or like natural consequences. And then finally, some like affirmations or subliminals at the end there, and an invitation to create your own even. So yeah, we have the Facebook group, we have our live that we're doing right now, and then we have the actual Teachable course that you can all be working through. Again, feeling free to utilize the course on Teachable and the group on Facebook in your own time from anywhere in the world that would have an internet connection, which I think is pretty cool. What else? So something else I wanted to talk about is something that keeps coming up in people who I'm talking to, and that is really the need or the desire to focus on what they want to be focused on, really focusing their attention and not being distracted, having the space and the time and the resources to really show up for their heart's desire, what they want to show up for, and not feeling pulled in 50 million directions, which I completely empathize with. I feel like there's never been a better time to be the most distracted in the world. You know what I mean? Like, very real. All of the screens and the pings and social media and all of it, really. Like, I don't need to inform you that modern society and technology can be super distracting. But like the alchemists we can see the power in, okay, there's all of these distractions, and we have the means to alchemize that into the ultimate focus, the ultimate attention, the ultimate creative direction. Taking all of the energy that had been going into distractions and reinvesting that energy into traction. You know what I mean? Like distraction, traction. You have to have like a train on the track. You have to have an awareness or an inkling of insight into what track are you on? Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? To be more aware of distractions. If you don't have a clearly defined traction, then it's harder to even tell what a distraction is. So as we're flowing through this as a juicy nugget or like thing to alchemize, that's just something I want to bring into the space. If you feel like you're struggling with something like distractions, flip it, alchemize it, and then be like, what are my tractions? You can journal about it, you can doodle about it, you can conceive of yourself as a literal train on a track. What is that track? And then what is coming up as a distraction? Before diving into solutions, we need to really understand the problem at hand, and what your traction is, what your distractions are, can look very different. You know what I mean? Also going to take a little sip. And that's another intention I have for Simply Lucid as far as the course. Like, that is the track. If anything, thinking of, okay, when I log into this Teachable program, maybe I do my little ritual, maybe I light a candle, burn my incense. My track for right now, focusing just for right now, the track is this course. The track is the next module. The track is the next lesson. So breaking it up into tinier and tinier bits, and then going the next itty bitty step. So it's like, okay, it's time to get on track. The track is this course. Okay, what's my next itty bitty step? Okay, log into Teachable. What's my next itty bitty step? Go to the lesson that I'm on. Okay, what's the next itty bitty step? Okay, watching the next bit of content that I need to watch, or doing the exercise from the video that I just watched, or reflecting on the exercise I just did. So like getting clear on the track or the traction, getting started, and then breaking that up into the tiniest next little itty bitty step, and then taking that step, and then taking that step, and then taking that step. Another example would be if you need to, say, organize your whole house. To organize your whole house can seem like a super overwhelming task, right? So it's like, okay, what room do I want to start with? What corner of what room do I want to start with? What, like, breaking it up into the tiniest little bits, and then clearing that, doing that, check. Next, clearing that, doing that, check. Next. And again, this is a way of approaching tackling a way of approaching it that a teacher has taught to me. And it didn't stick at first. It was like, no, but I'm just distracted, I'm just overwhelmed. It's easy to stay in that narrative. But for example, say you spend 23 hours of the day with the narrative of like, I'm just distracted, I'm just overwhelmed. Like, okay, you can stay there. That's true for you. Nothing's challenging that. But an invitation would be, okay, for 1 hour of the day, assume that you can be on track for that 1 hour of the day. Within that hour, your track is clearly defined by you. That track could be working on the Simply Lucid course. That track could be cleaning your house, right? The track is there. It's already decided. So you don't have to think about it. That hour comes up. you get on track, right to the track. And then what do? Like I said, break it up into tiny itty bitty bits. And in theory, that's you doing that for just 1 hour of one day every day, spending the rest of it in however you would like to, you know what I mean? But that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of what you can get done being focused for 1 hour is more than you might be able to get done without creating that space or putting like 5 hours of your time away to get your task done, but not having a clearly defined track or even like place that you're channeling your energy into. So then hours are spent even just figuring out what you need to do, or like rewriting your to-do list, or who knows what. Get lost in lists, start writing a list of all the lists I need to make a few times. Track seems like a great way to break up the list making. And yeah, don't get me wrong, like I'm obsessed with lists. However, I at this point have adopted a digital list. It's called To Do, like TEUX DEUX. Let me write it. No, it says I can't post comments, but I'll post it later. But yeah, I basically, instead of writing list, like I spent so much time just writing what I needed to do instead of doing it, right? So at this point in time, I have it digital. It's a digital list. I don't write it, I don't rewrite it. It's just there. It's there. I have it programmed to like repeat stuff that I need to do that's repeating. And then once I do the thing, I get so much satisfaction. I click it and it like, it's like literal, what is it? Positive reinforcement of like checking the thing off of the list, which is so fulfilling, but it can potentially snowball into like putting more and more stuff on the list, or more and more stuff on the list, or more and more stuff on the list, or you've gotten so much stuff on the list done. So you take a break, but then you're feeling guilty about what else you need to do. Like these are all super familiar spaces, especially for like highly creative or highly intuitive people, being tuned into maybe even more senses than the average person has. And then creating your to-do list or building your world from that, it can be so much and so overwhelming. So like I said, a step one would be pick a track, like get clear on what you're trying to do when it comes time for traction time. And traction time can be, like I said, 1 hour of a day, like keeping it as simple as possible to start off with as an experiment, right? Like you literally experimenting with reprogramming or programming yourself. So an exercise that I would recommend, an exercise that has helped me, is you basically brain dump and brainstorm like 25 things. So it's like herbs and Reiki and crystals and music, and you like don't hold back. You just brain dump 25 things as far as your passions or your interests. And then, so that's like step one, right? And if you're watching this on a replay, feel free to pause this video and like literally go do that step. And then once you're done with that step, this is potentially a hard or difficult part, but you pick 4 or 5 things from that list of all the cool shit you wrote down, all like the cool stuff you want to do with your very cool life. And for the sake of the experiment, right, you pick 4 or 5 of those things. And when I first got exposed to this exercise, I was like, it literally felt like getting my skin peeled off or something. I'm like, I can't reduce myself to 4 or 5 things. Like it didn't add up. But what made it make sense, or what made it in alignment with my need for like freedom and flexibility, was that it said like, hey, this is not a forever thing. This could be for the week. This could be for a month, 3 months. It's for however long you want it to be. And then you can reset. For example, you might do this list, this brain dump, the 25 things. You might pick 4 or 5 things. Say they are centered around finance, or like some very pressing issue for you right now. You might be able to get so much stuff done in that realm by only focusing on that for a week or a month or however long, that you can then cycle in different things. So what I'm getting at is you can theoretically tackle those 25 things you wrote down, but not at one time, through making the sacrifice, the super uncomfortable, like making the sacrifice of the many to focus on the few. You might get those done, and then you can have more few, then you can have more few, and then you could very well have worked with all of those 25 things, but because you have batched them as their own tracks, put aside intentional energy to them, said no, like you're clearly defining your traction, the 4 or 5 things, then you're clearly defining your distractions. So I feel like we may feel like a distraction is something bad for us, and I don't think that's true at all. A distraction could be something super awesome that we want to do. It might be that a distraction can be something that we will get around to doing, just not now. So it's a sense of not demonizing distractions and not getting too attached to what we're currently working on, but seeing it as flexible, being like, I'm working on what I'm working on right now. For example, I'm working through the Simply Lucid course right now, but it'll hit a point where I'm done going through the coursework. Then it's just a matter of implementing it into my life and living it. But as far as going through the actual course, that's finite. So you can, as an example, use that as a traction or a focal point, and then go really hard putting your energy into that. And then once it's done, then you have that space and time and energy for something else. However, if you try to manage like 10 different things at one time, you might never get the course done. I'm sure we've all heard it before, but like we can try to do many, many things poorly or be good at like one thing. So for me, that never resonated. I'm like, I would just be bad at many things. I don't want to be doing one thing. But then I actually read this book called Renaissance Souls that I got a lot of like tips and exercises from. Highly recommend it. Renaissance Souls. And the author of that was basically saying, hey, you don't have to pick one thing. I know you're like highly creative, highly intuitive. To tell you to like pick one thing with your life is not the move. However, you're probably suffering in all of these ways, like focusing, time management, making money off of like what you're trying to do. She had worked with so many people, she saw those patterns. So she was saying like, hey, not focus on one thing and feel like limited in your life, but focus on a few things and then cycle that out for a few different things as you move and navigate through that space. And yeah, I'll definitely link more about like the book or that particular concept. But yeah, it's the brainstorming exercise. And ever since I got exposed to this exercise, I have a very, very sacred ritual at this point. To not do it is causes me so much psychological and energetic distress. But I literally every week, every Sunday, I go through what are my focal points. And I literally have four. I have them, I'm like looking at them right now on a note card, 4 things on a note card. And I change them whenever the heck I want to. Like I am not tied or married to these focal points, but I am attached to the idea of focal points, because then I'm very clear on what's my traction, what are my focal points for now, what's a distraction, what aren't my focal points right now. Not to say they're bad or wrong, or that I won't get around to them, like I said, but it's not in service to me doing the best on what's the most important to me right now. It's not in service to that to be doing this other stuff right now. So I feel like it creates a space for everything to be there, but it ultimately prioritizes it. And then once you prioritize what's the most important thing, what are the 4 or 5 most important things to you right now, then when are you going to work on those things? When are you going to be on track to work on those things? and then reflecting on that, like practicing that for, like I said, I do it every week. I reflect on it and I'm like, am I telling myself that something is a focal point that I don't actually care about right now? All right, then I'm not going to have it be a focal point. I'm not going to tell myself that I need to do something or that something's super important to me, not do it because it's not in alignment, and then feel shitty about it, you know? And again, not saying that that thing is a bad thing or not for me at all, just saying this is not the most important thing or one of the most important things for me in my life right now, and letting it cycle out. And I change my focal points. Like maybe I change them once every 6 months, then maybe after that I change them every week or every few weeks, you know? As creatives, as intuitive, magical beings, we might be working on a project that is like our life's work, right? Or we might be working on a project that literally has an end date, maybe taking on a like load or case for a client that has a clear start, clear end. Then it's, you know, then you have more space for more things. So staying open, staying flexible in all of that. And yeah, just really being honest with yourself, and if something is not a priority right now, letting letting it go. I feel like I can sooner let the stuff go because I've been practicing this whole exercise, what I've been talking about for years now, because it came from a need to not literally be having panic attacks and super overwhelmed about my life, as well as me not trying to compromise my personality, trying to compromise my energy and like turn myself into someone or something that I'm not. Because honestly, some people truly can pick one thing to do with their life, do it forever, and be happy, you know? But I knew I had certain interests, but I knew I was interested in so many things. Not everything would make me money, like not everything, you know, all different kinds of things. And I was depressed. Like I was like, how am I made like this, but I can't figure out how to integrate this energy within myself and then how to show up in the world with it. So I'm super grateful for this exercise and super grateful for the book and like thoughts I was exposed to. But I said all that to say that if something is not a focal point for me right now, I quickly get it out of off my to-do list, out of my life. Like I don't give a shit. Not to say if you're new to this practice that getting rid of some stuff might not be difficult. You know what I mean? So like not making light of the process of letting that stuff go, but really seeing it as, back to alchemy, the alchemic sacrifice in service to becoming a better version of ourselves, in service to putting more energy into what we would rather be doing right now, and then staying tuned into that and changing it whenever we would want to. So yeah, excited to see how that goes, and remembering to stay flexible. Like this isn't you to have some tyrannical relationship with yourself. This is to create more flexibility, flow, excitement in your life. But my focal points right now, I used to have like what I want to do or get done as my focal points, and it wasn't feeling super inspiring. So my last round of focal points, I literally have it being like, being like, what do I want to feel, what do I want to embody, and let stuff be in service to that. So right now I have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's three things, but like I chunk it into one, right? Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, like cultivating growth and learning. Beauty, art, creation, aesthetics. And then I have like health, wealth, and abundance. So I basically have like mind, art, and stuff, and then finances, and then free, like letting everything be in service to greater and greater levels of like sovereignty and freeness for myself. And you know what I mean? So the focal points don't have to be like, you gotta build a house and you gotta write your book. And, you know, it can be like, have fun, experience joy, bliss out. It can be whatever you want, but it's coming from your own inner work, your own processing of, like I said, writing down those 25 things and picking out what's the most like important thing to you right now. And Renaissance Souls, a book that I read, I believe it's still a website, although the author has passed away, as well as another website called Putty Like. And it's really, it felt so refreshing to me as like a creative or intuitive individual to get connected to these resources where people were not only providing me exercises to better know myself and how to create, like design a whole life for myself that will probably look different than someone else's life. Not only was I getting those resources, I was just getting connected with people that made me feel like not alone, like not a weirdo for being who I was. And I'm like eternally grateful for that. And I'm so excited to share this work. Yeah. So basically, just diving into that brief little overview, diving into a little bit about meditation, diving into a little bit about like focal points and feeling all scattered and stuff. That is the gist of our like hour together. The intention or the design of these coaching deep dives is to be together like for an hour. So I definitely have more to talk about, but we can talk about it in subsequent group meetups. Like I still want to talk about, dive deeper into things like commitment and stuff like that. But for the sake of traction and focus, let's stay focused on, like I said, staying tuned into how we are already meditating, not creating more work for ourselves, but just owning all the opportunities we already have to drop into the meditative space and like what we're already doing there. And then also, if you want to, doing the focal point or traction exercise, right? Like dumping down 25 or however much comes up, like dumping it all out and doing the work of picking 4 or 5 things, maybe putting it on note cards in your physical space. I'm super visual, so if I see it, that's all part of like the reprogramming of my subconscious, putting it in my office, putting it in my bathroom, putting it on the fridge, making my world about that traction. So staying aware of how we're already meditating, how we can invite more meditation into our lives, doing our 25 things, brain dump, picking our 4 or 5 focal points, and then implementing space and time throughout our week to be on track, if that makes sense. And really being patient and gentle with ourselves when we are not on track, being like, okay, even if I'm not on track for 23 hours of the day, that 1 hour, I'm on track and I know what my track is. Maybe you pick the 5 focal points, and for 1 hour every day, you fully pour yourself into that. Or for, staying flexible and open to however it works best for you. So that's my invitation to you all right now. Hope you can continue to work through module 1 of like the magical exercises, and then of course the intro with the more like practical housekeeping stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to hear about what you guys figure out your focal points are and how you're going to go about creating intentional space and time, if only for, like I said, like an hour, like tiny bits, keeping it tiny and simple, to then build off of, building that foundation of simplicity, finding out what your focal points are, communicating your plan to work on them when you're on track, looking into how you've already meditated, how you will see more and more chances for meditative moments, if only for a breath, working your way through the rest of module 1, asking any questions you have in the question thread, and staying tuned into more of our group coaching sessions. I'm so glad you all are here. Thank you so much for showing up to the space. That is essentially our first call. I hope you are into it. And like I said, in the future, feel free to come with your potion, your journal, your incense, stuff to burn, getting all cozy, using this at like an invitation is to maybe have this program and course as one of your focal points. And if anything, for 1 hour every week, you can bank on showing up for yourself in this space in this way, nurturing yourself, getting cozy, and just letting whatever information comes through to you and whatever really resonates with you, maybe leaving the rest and going forward with that into the week ahead. So again, thank you all so very much. For me, that hour flew by because I was able to talk about stuff I am really passionate about. But yeah, like I said, feel free to follow up with any questions, and I'm excited to hear how you guys do. All right, peace out until next time. Cheers. Thank you. Yeah.